The game of D&D is super fun, and being the DM can be the most rewarding role at the table, but it can also be incredibly daunting for a first-time DM. So I'm here to help you dive in head first. This is Taylor's Tavern Tales, and let's get into the DMing do's and don'ts. First up, do know the basics. Don't be a rules lawyer. What I mean by that is if you're a first-time DM, I'd at least recommend knowing a little bit of the basics. Maybe reading the DM's guide, but it's not fully necessary. If you really just want to get into a game and just sink your teeth into it, I'd recommend at least knowing the basic checks. Attack rolls, saving throws, and ability checks. I find the biggest struggle for new DMs is knowing when to ask for an ability check. So the general rule for that is, if you could fail, ask them to make an ability check. For an example, if my character were to go up to a tavern keeper and ask them for a lower price on mead in exchange for this beautiful pink stone that's actually worthless, my character would be asked to make a persuasion check because I could definitely fail at this task. And here's the don't. Don't be a rules lawyer. What I mean by that is don't get caught up on the rules. You're a new DM, you are not going to know all the rules. And if you do, props to ya. I still don't, and I've been playing for years. For an example, if your players want to kick down a wooden door and you can't think of the DC off the top of your head, the difficulty class, just make it up, let them roll, and see what happens. And after the session is over, if you really want to, then you can look it up, and if you were wrong, just tell the players that you were wrong, and next time, all wooden doors will have a DC of blank from now on. On to the next. Do be flexible. Don't railroad. Most DMs do this because they're too caught up on how they want their story to be played, on how it should be played. And if you're a new DM that's written this incredible narrative with crazy world building and political intrigue and blah blah blah, that's awesome. But you have to be willing to let a little bit of that go. It's kind of like giving up full control, even though that's what a lot of new DMs think that DMing is. Being in full control. You're not. You have to take into account that your players are people, and people are crazy. Never have I heard more wild shenanigans than when playing D&D. And that takes me to my last and certainly not least point. Do run a session 0. Don't skip it. Even if you think, it's fine, I'll just jump right into it. No. Dear God, if I can leave you with one thing from this video, run a session 0. I don't care if you're playing with friends you've known for years. I promise you they will find new ways to disturb and surprise you. So here are my top 3 things to go over. Be sure to go over anything that you and your players do not want in the campaign. Anything that is triggering, any topics they don't want to go over, everything like that. Make sure you try to set up those boundaries in the beginning, so if something happens mid-game, you can bring it back to session 0 and say, hey man, not allowed. We already discussed this. Big no-no. Number 2, what is the vibe of the game? You as the DM don't want to have a silly, goofy, fun adventure in your head, and then your players show up with a ultra-realistic, gritty assassin. The vibes just aren't vibing there, even though that would be kind of hilarious, and now I really want to do it. And finally, what do your players want from your game? Do they want their character to find out who killed their parents, or do they want to settle a vendetta, or do they just want to get as much gold as they can? Figuring out what your players want from your campaign is something that I find is very important, so that you're all going in with the same expectations. Well, this was my top do's and don'ts of first-time DMs. If you liked it, leave me a like and subscribe. I will be doing more do's and don'ts of D&D weekly, but in the meantime, I post daily D&D horror stories, so if you want to truly see what not to do, check those out in the playlist that is probably right over here. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you tomorrow.